What if you could design life itself? What if you could go from a single cell in a primordial soup to a galaxy-spanning empire of your own creation? In 2008, Spore tried to answer that. It was a game so ambitious it sounded like science fiction, and somehow it was real. Created by one of the most brilliant game designers of all time, hyped to oblivion and bought by millions. And then, silence. No sequel, no spiritual successor, just a curious absence. So what happened? Why didn't Spore evolve? Get it? The story of Spore begins with Will Wright. You might know him as the mind behind SimCity and The Sims, two of the most influential PC games ever made. But after The Sims exploded into a global phenomena in the early 2000s, Wright was already looking to something bigger. And by bigger, I mean the entire universe. Inspired by scientific literature, from the selfish gene to the Drake equation. Wright wanted to create a game that let you guide a species through the entire evolutionary chain. From a microscopic cell to land-dwelling creature to intelligent tribal society to spacefaring galactic explorer. He demoed the first version at the GDC in 2005 and jaws hit the floor. The concept was revolutionary, gameplay that blended evolution, procedural generation, artificial intelligence, and user creativity. It wasn't just a game, it was a simulation of life, ambition, and progress. And so the hype began. Spore was picked up by Maxis and published by EA, who were quick to market it as the future of gaming. The game promised 5 interconnected stages: cell, creature, tribal, civilization, and space. Each one was supposed to feel like a different genre: action, god game, RTS, even 4X, all tied together by your custom-created species. In mid-2008, EA released the Spore Creature Creator, a standalone tool that let players design their own creatures and share them online a few months before the game was actually released. Within a month, over 2.5 million creatures had been uploaded. To put it into perspective, that's more than the known number of animal species on Earth. YouTube was flooded with videos of custom aliens, freakish abominations, and of course, enough penis monsters to make Freud uncomfortable. This video is sponsored by Plague London 6065. Imagine Spore, but instead of creating life, you're watching it slip through your fingers. In Plague London 1665, you play as Edward Poole, a father who arrives in London just as the Black Death begins to spread. Your family is dying, the city is burning, and every choice you make feels heavier than the last rat-infested barrel. It's pixel art, it's emotional, it's brutal. Available on Steam, link is in the description. Now back to the video. When Spore launched in September 2008, it was a massive success commercially. It sold over 1 million copies in the first 3 weeks. Eventually it topped 4 million units. For a PC-only game at the time, that was blockbuster territory. But once players got their hands on it, the cracks started to show. Critics gave it a decent score, but longtime fans? Mixed feelings. Each stage felt too short or too shallow. The cell stage was over in minutes. The creature stage, while fun to experiment with, lacked real depth. The tribal stage and the civilization phase felt like watered-down versions of better games. And the space stage, ironically the most expensive, was often repetitive and overwhelming. Worse, the promise of evolution was mostly aesthetic. Changing your creature's legs or arms didn't drastically affect gameplay. It was more like customizing an action figure than simulating evolution. Oh yeah, and let's not forget there was that DRM controversy. Spore launched with a form of digital rights management called Securum, which limited players to 3 installs and secretly installed software without clear user consent. The backlash was immediate: thousands of negative reviews on Amazon, protests on forums, and lawsuits. It became one of the most pirated games of 2008, possibly as a direct result of its anti-piracy system. But let me pause the video here for a second. Despite everything and all the critics, Spore was and still is one of my personal favorite games of all time. After the rocky launch, the dream started to fall apart. Will Wright left Maxis in 2009 to start a side project incubator called Stupid Fun Club. Without its original visionary, EA tried to keep the flame alive. Kind of. Spore Hero for the Wii, Spore Creatures for the DS, and even a darker action RPG version called Dark Spore came and went. but none of them captured the imagination or the sales of the original. By 2011, Spore was plagued by server issues. By 2016, it was officially dead. EA had quietly buried the Spore brand. So why wasn't there a sequel, Spore 2? First, the commercial success of Spore didn't translate into a lasting fanbase. While millions bought it, not everyone loved it. It didn't have the staying power of The Sims or SimCity. Second, the game's technical backbone, procedural animation, and interconnected stages was a nightmare to develop. Each system had to communicate to others. A sequel would have required even more resources and even more risk. Third, and maybe most importantly, EA shifted directions. The early 2010s saw the rise of microtransactions, mobile games, and live services. Compared to reliable cash cows like FIFA and The Sims, Spore was an evolutionary dead end. And finally, there's a psychological aspect. Spore tried to be 5 games in one, but it spread itself too thin. It promised the stars and delivered a very charming solar system. But here's the thing, Spore didn't fail. Not really. It inspired a generation of developers, modders, and players. Games like Thrive, Species, Artificial Life Real Evolution, No Man's Sky, and Kerbal Space Program all echo Spore's grand ideas. The modding community to this day still breathes life into the original. There are Spore hacks, texture packs, and even full overhauls that attempt to add complexity back into the game. And even more than that, Spore gave players something rare, creative freedom on a cosmic scale. The tools it offered, while flawed, were revolutionary. So no, we probably won't ever get Spore 2, but maybe that's okay. Maybe Spore was never meant to become a franchise. Maybe it was a beautiful, brilliant, messy experiment in a singular moment in gaming history, where ambition outpaced execution but left us dreaming anyways. Because the dream of evolving life from nothing, that dream didn't die. It just mutated and it's still evolving. If you enjoyed this video and want more deep dives into games that left a mark, whether brilliant or broken, then hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fascinating, quirky and unexpected stories from gaming history. I've got plenty more coming your way, so stay curious and I'll see you in the next one. Congratulations to the winners of this giveaway, listed here. Send me an email to claim your Steam key. If you also want to participate in the next giveaway, which will be in the next video I release, simply subscribe to my channel. I will be picking 5 random subscribers with each video releasing.